Additionally, Afghan civilians were injured. Earlier this week, intelligence report warned of a possible attack in the leading days. Early reports attribute the attacks to ISIS-K, a division of a militant group in Afghanistan. The U.S. Embassy in Afghanistan says there was an explosion at the Abbey Gate at the Kabul airport with reports of gunfire. They advise U.S. citizens to avoid traveling to the airport gates at this time. Those currently at the gates are asked to leave immediately. This Thursday, the Pentagon made comments on the ongoing efforts, saying the mission to evacuate civilians is not over.
Congressman Seth Moulton secretly flew to Kabul yesterday. They say it is unlikely every American and Afghan will be able to get out by the end of the month.
Both Seth and myself have been actively engaged on what's called the special immigrant visa issue. There have been a tremendous backlog of these cases.
Today, President Biden is expected to meet virtually with the governors open to accepting Afghan refugees and who have supported the process. President Biden has approved a federal disaster declaration for California and
troops set to withdraw. Few appeared to heed the call. The Taliban have so far honored a pledge not to attack Western forces during the evacuation. Overnight, new warnings emerged about a threat due to the Taliban's freeing of prisoners. The Taliban has promised to return Afghanistan to security, and they've pledged that they will not seek revenge on those who opposed them or roll back progress on human rights. But many Afghans are skeptical. Outside New Kabul Bank in the capital, hundreds lined up to withdraw their money as the price of essentials rise. Secretary of State Antony Blinken believes only about 1,500 Americans still need to be evacuated from Afghanistan. But the U.S. government says they've only been able to reach about a third of them.
There is no deadline on our work to help any remaining American citizens who decide they want to leave to do.
Could still be turned down, but if we're taking them out and bringing them to the U.S., which is what we're doing, it no longer matters whether they're turned down or not, because they're here. It's not like we're going to deport them back to Afghanistan. So once any Afghan has stepped on a U.S. plane and taken off from Kabul, that's pretty much it.
But the White House continues to portray the withdrawal in a positive light.
A total of approximately 19,000 people were evacuated from Kabul over a period of 24 hours that, of course, ended early this morning. This is the result of 42 U.S. military flights, which carried approximately 11,200 evacuees, and 48 coalition flights, which carried 7,800 people.
Then comes the question of whether we know if those coming to the U.S. represent any type of danger.
The issue of vetting is interesting because how do you vet people when you don't have anybody to call in their country to check on them? There's no, I mean, are we going to call the Kabul DMV and ask for somebody's records?
I'm Frank McCaffrey reporting.
That's not
Attack. Earlier this week, intelligence reports warned of a possible attack in the leading days, possibly by a suicide bomber or ISIS-K, the militant group division in Afghanistan. The U.S. Embassy saying Afghanistan says there is an explosion at the Abbey Gate of Kabul airport with reports of gunfire. They advise U.S. citizens to avoid traveling to the airport gates at this time. Those currently at the gates are asked to leave the region immediately. Meanwhile, military cargo planes were seen taking off from Kabul International Airport on Thursday as thousands have flocked there trying to flee Taliban-controlled Afghanistan in the waning days of a massive airlift. Western nations are warning of a possible attacks in the airport. Britain said on Thursday that an attack could come within hours, and Belgium said there was a threat of a suicide bombing. Several countries urged people to avoid the airport, but with just days before the evacuation ends and American troops withdraw, few have appeared to heed that call. Many fear the return of Taliban brutal rule, but new warnings emerged overnight of Western capitals about a threat on the airport of Afghanistan's Islamic State group affiliate. Over the last week, the airport has been the scene of some of the most searing images of the chaotic end of America's longest war and the Taliban takeover, as flight after flight landed to pull out who fear to return to militant rule. On the ground on the airport, large crowds remained around the airport on Thursday. These are images from earlier today, as seen with tear gas and fire hoses used to try to disperse them ahead of the looming August 31st deadline for the U.S. withdrawal of troops. Several countries had urged people to avoid the airport, but few appeared to leave the region. The Taliban had promised to return security to Afghanistan and pledged that they will not seek revenge on those who oppose them or roll back progress on human rights. But many Afghans are skeptical. Outside New Kabul Bank in the capital, hundreds lined up to withdraw their money as the price of essential goods surged. Meanwhile, Belgian Prime Minister Alexandre De Croo announced at the end of the country's evacuation from Kabul airport this Thursday. He also said that he received intelligence from U.S. sources of a possible suicide terror attack happening at the airport. Croo added that 5 flights had taken place between Kabul and Islamabad on Wednesday, and all personnel and evacuees are out in Pakistan. Belgium and other European countries have been obliged to wind down their operations as U.S. troops running Kabul airport prepare to leave by August the 31st.
Will not deter us from accomplishing the mission. I can assure you of that. All Americans can and should be proud of the men and women of the armed forces who are facing these dangers head on with their international partners and all our other friends that are with us. And we appreciate your thoughts and prayers for all our service members who are carrying on this mission today.
So with great detail, and you've had a chance to speak to some so far. The situation on the ground is still evolving, and I'm constantly being updated. These American service members who gave their lives, it's an overused word, but it's totally appropriate here, were heroes. Heroes who've been engaged in a dangerous, selfless mission to save the lives of others. They were part of an airlift, an evacuation effort unlike any seen in history, with more than 100,000 American citizens, American partners, Afghans who helped us, and others taken to safety in the last 11 days. Just in the last 12 hours or so, another 7,000 have gotten out. They were part of the bravest, most capable, the most selfless military on the face of the earth. And they're part of simply what I call the backbone of America. They're the spine of America, the best the country has to offer. Jill and I, our hearts ache, like I'm sure all of you do as well, for all those Afghan families who lost loved ones, including small children, or been wounded in this vicious attack. And we're outraged as well as heartbroken. Being the father of a...
Stops with you. Do you bear any responsibility for the way that things have unfolded in the last 2 weeks?
I bear responsibility for fundamentally all that's happened of late. But here's the deal. You know, I wish you'd one day say these things. You know as well as I do that the former president made a deal with the Taliban that he would get all American forces out of Afghanistan by May 1. In return, the commitment was made, and that was a year before. In return, he was given a commitment that the Taliban would continue to attack others, but would not attack any American forces. Remember that? I'm being serious. No, I'm asking you a question. Because before... No, wait a minute. I'm asking you a question. Is that accurate, the best of your knowledge? What?
Do you think that people have an issue with pulling out of Afghanistan or just the way that things have happened?
I think they have an issue that people are likely to get hurt. Some, as we've seen, have gotten killed, and that it is messy. The reason why, whether my friend will acknowledge it or has reported it, the reason why there were no attacks on Americans, as you said, from the date until I came into office, was because the commitment was made by President Trump. I will be out by May 1st. In the meantime, you agree not to attack any Americans. That was the deal. That's why no American was attacked.
And you said, a few days ago, you said you squarely stand by your decision to pull out.
Yes, I do. Because look at it this way, folks. And I have another meeting for real. But
12 members of the United States military are now dead due to Joe Biden's incompetence in the direction of this pullout. Incompetence. The man does not, he's not capable of controlling what's happening in this country, what needs to happen. He is not capable. He needs to be removed. Another rainy night in Georgia. There's almost a wreck at this intersection out here. I'm in the crosswalk coming across. This guy turns left, sees me, stops, car heading south. Almost plowed into 2 other vehicles because of him. You idiots that can't look before you damn do what you're gonna do are gonna kill somebody. I like the front end of this Jeep. Kind of reminds me of me when I'm pissed off at some driver that don't pay attention. I know what happened there. Somebody got their car window busted out.